Welcome to the Gentlewoman channel. Last week we dropped our first video. I was in Nairobi, so there was a little bit of like issues with timing because this video is gonna come out every Sunday at 9 a.m. So you can watch it when it premieres at 9 a.m. before you go to church, or you can watch it when you come back from church and take a notebook and really just get into it. So the name, I don't think I've kind of gotten to a final decision about the name for this segment, but I can see that a lot of you are thinking about working smart and living well something. I thought about working smart and living well Q&A, you know, just basic, straight to the point. Let me know what you guys think about that. There were a couple of options. There's something that someone suggested saying the tribe asks, which I really like because it's quite direct around, you know, what it is that we're doing here. But if you're a marketer, you know the importance of branding and names. And I think really to carry through the working smart and living well element, I kind of fell into working smart and living well Q&A. Let me know what you guys think. In terms of frequency, I will be dropping these videos every Sunday at 9 a.m. Quick update, life updates. I'm obsessed with the 12 life areas, which I spoke about in my last video. They have fundamentally been a great tool for me to shape my thinking about my life, my activity, but also my journaling. When I journal now, I really do think about the primary life areas that I want to focus on for the day. And I have an update on 3. Firstly, career. I got an opportunity to go to Nairobi, and I recorded 4 interviews for my interviews on working smart and living well, and it was exceptional. I got the opportunity to go to Nairobi for a different brief. And I thought, you know what, whilst I'm in Nairobi, why don't I just set up something and I speak to women there? I'm very fortunate that I have a wide network around the world, and I can call people to really help me to put the stuff together. So I never wanted to seem like it's something that I have the brilliance to put together by myself, but I actually reached out to Aniko, who's a publicist based in Nairobi and works with so many celebrities across the continent. She's a contact that I engaged with when I was still working with talent in the talent management space. So I reached out to her and I told her about my vision. She's been following my journey. We actually met when she was in South Africa, so we were able to put together those interviews. It was not cheap, but I've really committed to investing in this channel, in investing in the growth of the community here. I really love it. It feels like home. Everyone is kind. The comments, it's so encouraging, and putting my money where my mouth is and really backing it with, you know, really committing to giving you guys good content. And we always thought of Agenda Woman as a global platform. So Nairobi actually was the first iteration of possibilities, because I'm planning to go to other countries to do the same thing I did in Nairobi. I don't know what the timelines will be. Well, definitely the next season will have a bigger reach in terms of the diversity of the women that I'll be speaking to there. Second update, social life. Guys, I spoke about not having a social life in the last video. I have to tell you, January we have a social life win. I got to go to the Gregory Potter concert with my friend. It was absolutely amazing to have an engagement that had nothing to do with work. I just went there. Investec actually hosted their clients at Cream in Monte Cassino, and we got in at 6 p.m. We had dinner, we had drinks. I got to catch up with my best friend Masiho. It was absolutely beautiful. Around 7:45 we started moving to it's the Monte Cassino Theatro, and we settled in for the concert. I absolutely love Gregory Potter. It's been my dream to actually watch him perform. I always thought it would be the Royal Albert Hall, but listen, I'll take Monte Cassino as long as it's Gregory Potter. So I have a win for January. I will be updating you on the social life thing because I quite want to be intentional with that. Third update, intellectual life. I think I spoke a little bit about how, you know, I read a lot of books, and I kind of can't escape the whole intellectual life thing. But this year, I really wanted to invest in this area beyond just reading books. I will be on the last Sunday of the month always reviewing a book. I was walking to the gym at the hotel in Nairobi, and this girl literally called out my name. She said to me, I follow you to get an idea of what you're reading. And you know, this is stuff I take for granted sometimes, but having this channel helps me to really be hyper-focused, hyper-attentive around my audience and what they're saying they are looking for when they engage with me on my platforms, whether it's social media at Nomdeni on Instagram and on this YouTube channel. So I will be doing a monthly book review on the last Sunday of the month. I'm actually reading Soar by T.D. Jakes. So I'm curious about the intersection of politics and business, particularly if you want to build a big business, not a survivalist business, not a medium-sized business, but really when you have to build a discovery, when you have to build a Sanlam, when you have to build an organization that has branches through the continent, through the world, you can't dismiss having a deep understanding of politics and how to engage with that in every region that you get into. And because that's my ambition for Agenda Woman, I've decided that I will be investigating actually getting into an MBA program. I'm so excited. I know everyone says an MBA is very difficult, but for me, it's more than just doing the actual MBA. It is about all the information that I'm gonna get as part of being in those classes, and the research that I will be doing around, you know, some of the insights that we've gathered on Agenda Women, but also some of the insights that we want to excavate from the community, the Agenda Women community, and seeing how we produce that into a white paper or something like that. So I have never been a person that gets excited by academia, but here we are. You know, I'm really, really excited to potentially be getting back into the classroom and thinking through some of the things that I want to do with this business. Now, the next chunk of this video is going to be the answer to a question that I got from the past video, because I asked everyone to kind of ask me questions that I'll be responding to in this segment. And I got a question from Nomzamo Mkunya. I'm gonna read the question before I actually give you guys the answer. And I also was a bit worried about, you know, the question speaking to one demographic and not the other. So in this channel, we have women who follow this channel because they are working women, so they're employed in corporate companies, global and local, who are looking for content that will help them navigate the challenges within that space. But then there's also entrepreneurs who are looking for content that will help them navigate entrepreneurship. It was very interesting that the question was around market research, and I'll tell you why after I've read the question. So the question said, I have a work smart question about market research. I just need someone who can break it down to me step by step as a girl from Ekasi who has a business idea on how I could go about doing market research and do it thoroughly. Let's say I want to show potential investors that I understand the market and that I want to penetrate. How do I go about collecting the data that shows me that my business idea is of need in the marketplace or not? I hope my question makes sense. That was Nomzamo Mkunya. Nomzamo, having spoken about an MBA, there are extensive ways that you can do that kind of market research. But in this video, we're on YouTube. I'm gonna keep it light, and I'm gonna give you probably a starting point around thinking about market research. So for instance, with Agenda Woman, you know, people always ask me, how do I go about getting funding and sponsorship partners? And one of the key things about getting anything from anyone, and when I say anyone, I'm talking about the consumer that buys your product, I'm talking about your boss if you're employed, I'm talking about an investor if you're looking for someone to give you money for your business, or someone who's gonna give you a scholarship. It's fundamentally understanding what value you are providing them. So if you're looking for an investor, you have to understand what the investor is looking for. You have to understand what your consumer is looking for. So your job is gonna be twofold. So I'm gonna go back and share a little bit about Agenda Woman. I took about 2 years to craft the Agenda Woman proposition for sponsorship. I had to really think about what are we fundamentally offering our sponsors and our partners. And the only way you will figure that out is by understanding your sponsors and partners. So the starting point for me with Agenda Woman was understanding my consumer. I think that's basic. You need to know who you are selling your products to. If you don't know on the basis of that you have not sold the product, you have to make an assumption. You have to think about who is the woman or the man, I'm always thinking about women, who is the person that you're selling your product to. Then you need to create an avatar for this person. If you go online and you Google consumer avatar, you will get multiple articles that will help you figure out what questions you need to ask yourself. Where do they stay? Where do they shop? How much do they potentially earn? What kind of car do they drive? All of these questions will give you clues about who this person is and what they value. So if you were exposed to the Agenda Woman business deck, I have a whole page that explains who the woman I'm speaking to is. How did I develop that? I developed that on looking at myself, because at the beginning of Agenda Woman, my consumer was me. I was trying to solve the problems that I was having. So I kind of crafted that avatar by looking at my patterns and my friends' patterns, because they were the people that I kept around me. So asking myself, what is the average, salary that they're taking home? Where do we shop? How often do we go out to eat? And these questions also give you an indication of how much buying power these people have. So the first point I would advise anyone to start in thinking through market research is really defining who the consumer is. I was also very intentional about making sure that this video does not only speak to the entrepreneur, but it also speaks to the working woman. And this is another very interesting story around market research. The reason I decided that I want to speak to the working woman who is employed in a corporate structure and an entrepreneur. When I started, like I said, I was speaking to someone that looks like me. I've been an entrepreneur for over 12 years. I know what entrepreneurship looks like, feels like, what it is. But I also understood that fundamentally a lot of women who are building businesses do not have excess cash to spend on marketing. And I realized that maybe the thing I wanted to offer, they might not be able to afford. But you know what? I stayed on it. I kept sharing content, kept talking to people, kept gathering data as I engaged with my potential customer avatar. What happened with the summit in 2022 was I took a risk and I said, let me offer something to working girls, the corporate girls, and see how that turns out. That was a major shift in how my business looks, in who our primary consumer is, and where a big chunk of our revenue is gonna come from. And that is why, even in doing this video, I cannot answer the question just for the consumer. I have to consider the working woman who's in a corporate structure, because I recognize how many are in need of the solution that we're offering at Agenda Woman. So if you are a working woman in a corporate structure, I need you to think about market research in this way. The organization is your market. That's your marketplace. That's your ecosystem. If you want to thrive and you really want to get to the next level within the space, you need to think about who your consumer is. Who is the decision maker that is going to make it possible for you to get to the next level? Is it your boss? Is it your boss's boss? Is it your boss's boss gatekeeper? You really need to investigate how the person that holds the position that you want to get into actually got into that position. I know you're already saying, oh my gosh, they don't want to share information, this and that and that. But I promise you, the excuses are a bunch. I advise you to find the next best person to speak to about this position, whether it's someone in HR, whether it's building a relationship with someone in HR, whether it's a headhunter who hires for those positions, managerial positions. Find the next best person you can speak to who will get you closer to who your consumer is. Sometimes your consumer might not take up one avatar. It might be multiple avatars of consumers who are ranging from primary consumer to secondary consumer. So depending on who you can reach, start there. If you can reach your secondary consumer, speak to that person. If you can reach your primary consumer, speak to that person. So in the workplace, you're not necessarily thinking about demographics and all of that, but you fundamentally want to understand what value looks like in the space that you want to occupy. Therefore, how are the people who are in the space thinking through value. If you don't have people who you can speak to in your environment, I want to advise you to look at the videos that we've recorded with working women like Homoto Mosiyane, Chipo Mushwana, Nozipho Mbanjwa, Shabalala, women who have navigated success and figured out how to do it. I've interviewed them. I'm gonna interview more. If you can't really access the specific consumer, a way that you do market research is actually getting online, reading their interviews, reading how the people that you want to get attention from are phrasing their biographies on LinkedIn. It is work, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start with what you have and build from there. The second thing that you need to think about when you're doing market research is understanding why you're doing the market research. Understanding why you're doing the market research is going to inform what kind of questions you ask from your customers. So once you've created the avatar, that is just to inform who they are. Now you want to better understand their behavior as it relates to your product. Now, that's a specific set of questions that you need to ask them. So you have to think about, are you doing this research to get better ideas around how to create your product? Are you doing the research to make better decisions around how you communicate with them? And this speaks to both entrepreneurs and working women. And when you're a working woman in a corporate space, the product is you, right? You are the product that you want to sell. And then the third reason could be researching to understand love and hate, right? What do they love? What do they hate? Same kind of approach when you are a corporate woman in the corporate structure and when you're an entrepreneur. These are fundamentally things that seem very basic, but that are very difficult to think through when you're under high pressure and you have to deliver results. So I'm really excited to be able to create these videos because I have gone through those moments and I'm in a better position where I can really build and create my business on my own terms. And when I say on my own terms, even that, can be skewed because I do have to think about the evolution of the digital space because that's where our business lives mostly. So I don't really have all the time in the world, but I kind of have flexibility to think because I have the time to think. So I'm really excited to be creating these so that you guys can come to these videos and really think about what it is that you need to be doing from a step-to-step point of view. And then the other thing that you need to think about when you're conducting primary research, which is right at the beginning, outside of your creating your consumer profile, it is thinking about when you do have those set of questions to ask, how do you get to that person? So I've already shared for the corporate woman who is working in a corporate organization that they just have to find the first person that they can speak to. And when you do find the person to speak to, be ready. Know what it is that you want to speak to them about. Don't make it I want to chit chat over coffee. Have 5 questions that you know might be important for you to ask that person. And when you have those questions, think about the question that gets you to the next person. One of the things that we do, for instance, on the Female Founder Effect, which is an interview that we conduct on agendawoman.com, is at the end of that interview to ask the person that we're interviewing who else they would advise we get in touch with. And you know how we get in touch with that person? We say, "Hi Tando, we just interviewed Lazy Mapoti, and when we asked her who else we could interview for this segment on our website, they suggested you. Would you be interested in speaking to us?" It's a very different approach from saying, "Hi, we're Agenda Woman and we'd like to interview you on this and that and that." There are people who are powerful, who are in the spotlight, who get attention, who really have fatigue over interviews. So we had to think about a smart way to get to those people in a way that gives us credibility as a platform, but also tying in a credible source. Third thing, I think the first thing just to recap, the first thing is you have to build a consumer profile, which is a customer avatar. The second thing is once you've built that consumer avatar, think about, the first thing I mentioned around why you're doing the research. You have to analyze your competitors. You will not get all the data. You don't need to get precise data. You don't need access to their business plan. You don't need access to their books. Look at what they're doing. Think about all the information and data points that you already have and think about what they are doing. Think through their strengths. Where are they much stronger than you? Is it their ability to do things maybe cheaper than you would be able to do them? Think really through getting data around your competitors. You can even speak to their employees, people who know. Think about their weaknesses. Think about opportunities where their weaknesses exist. Think about threats, that they present to you, and all of that data is going to inform how you're going to land your product, how you're going to communicate your product, and which part of the audience demographic you are going to focus on, and really make sure you capture their attention, you build trust with them, and you continue to be their trusted source for that particular product or that information. Very similar even when you're in the workplace. Which other women are going for the same position that you're going for? How are they navigating the relationships? What do you see them doing? I think a lot of times when we see competitors or people who are vying for the same attention, doing particular things, we're very quick to judge, how they're navigating their way in corporate spaces. But you judging them is not going to get you what you want. Instead of judging them, study them. Recognize how their behavior could be a weakness or a strength. You don't have to emulate their behavior, but through figuring out what the SWOT analysis looks like, you can better position yourself for being creating competitive advantage. I've always thought about getting what I want in a very strategic way versus what is fair, So just very important to stop feeling sorry for yourself when people are strong in particular ways, whether that is speaking or outshining you or whatever it is, and really start to think about how can you get the things that you also want by cultivating your strength. I always think people use what their strengths are, what their assets are to get ahead in life. And it's very important for me to understand what my strengths are and how I can use that to get the things that I want. So just very important to stop feeling sorry for yourself when people are strong in particular ways, whether that is speaking or outshining you or whatever it is, and really start to think about how can you get the things that you also want by cultivating your strengths. Speaking of strengths, in my past video, I spoke about Strengths Finder, and I linked it in that last video. If you don't know what your strengths are, you have to try and get some kind of test that will help you figure out what your strengths are so that you can cultivate them and really work on making sure that they shine. The last thing is what has been powerful for me in market research, particularly for Agenda Women, is finding reports. I read a lot of reports that might not even have anything to do with the work that I do, but that really helped me understand the economics and the ecosystem of the environment that I play in. So there's reports that are done by Cantor that I read through. So reports are quite important. If you can get any, even if it's a government report, try to get your hands on a report. I think these 4 points are a great place to start in thinking through market research. I would need to sit with you. You would need to get like someone to do a business plan to get all the detail, but I fundamentally believe that these 4 points are a great place to start for someone who might not have the resources to pay for a person that can do a business plan for you and do the research for you. I'm going to repeat them just to recap. Number 1, create a consumer profile. It will evolve over time as you engage with your consumer more, but start with what you understand you want your consumer, who you want your consumer to be. Number 2, engage with that person. Once you've built the avatar, find real life people who fit that avatar and engage with them. It could be chit chats, it could be email surveys that you send through to them. Find a way to build that email database. It could be social media, it could be Instagram, it could be LinkedIn. There's so many platforms now that you can use to engage consumers and really start to gather information around what interests them. And then the third thing is you have to analyze your competitors in order to better understand how the terrain looks, the ecosystem that you exist in looks. You have to better understand your competitors, and don't shy away from calling people your competitors. You don't need to announce it, but you have to know who is doing similar work to you and gunning for the same attention that you need from the same demographic. The fourth thing is to really read reports. There's so many reports that you can get your hands on. McKinsey is a great platform for me to get a lot of reports. There's other organizations, Meltwater sometimes create reports. This is more marketing specific platforms. There is WSGN, which will have reports as well. So I subscribe to a lot of organizations, media outlets, consulting firms, so that I can stay on top of what's happening around the world. There's also an amazing platform called, that is a Google platform called Think with Google. If you go on Google and you type Think with Google and subscribe, you'll be able to get a lot of data around what's happening around the world, particularly with consumers. It might not be South Africa relevant data, but it just keeps you informed around what the evolution is around the world, because it filters through from the first world to the third world most of the time. But by staying connected to the work, you'll be able to understand what it is that you need to extract from the data and what is not relevant for that data. I think that's the end of this video. If you have questions that you would like me to answer, please comment below. If you guys come across a comment with a question that you want me to answer, upvote that question by commenting underneath that particular question saying, I'm also interested in the answer, or whatever it is that you put there, so that I can get an idea of which questions I need to focus my energy on. And then I will prioritize those, because I imagine as I do more of these videos, there'll be more questions coming in. If you are not subscribed and you've watched up until the end of this video, please subscribe, like, comment, click the notification bell so that you know when we drop new videos. I hope this was very informative for working women and for entrepreneurs. I love this kind of content and I'm excited to create more. Hopefully we do something more living well next week, but I will be governed by what your questions are, and I will share on the basis of what you are curious about. Thank you for joining me again this week. I am thrilled to hear your comments. How can we make this platform better? What are you curious about? Anything really. The comment section belongs to you, and I always read through all the comments to make sure that we are always aligned with what your needs are. Have a beautiful Sunday.